What is going on, YouTube? Yesterday, I volunteered at a powerlifting meet and I lifted an Atlas stone. Both very interesting things. So I figured I'd make a video about the two of them and combine them into one. So you see what I'm doing. I'm doing a voiceover. Uh, what about the meet I want to talk about? I just want to talk about the little mistakes that I saw people making, little things that could have been improved upon to help them lift more weights. Now, let's get right into it. What are cues? For those of you who don't know, let's just give a broad overview. Cues are like signals, I guess, or little things to remind us of the way we should be moving or the things we should be doing during the lift that are going to help us move the most weight, right? Like cues should be helpful. They should be simple, concise, easy to understand. If you ever hear somebody yelling at another person, like some random word when they're lifting something, that could be a cue that the two of them have worked out before. Most of them are universal, I feel. You know, if you hear one, you should mostly recognize what it's saying, but you never know. For those of you who don't know, a powerlifting meet is just where both males and females come together in different weight classes and they compete to see who can lift the most in the squat, bench, and deadlift. The athletes get 3 attempts at each lift. They usually have time between each lift so they can fuel up, stretch, warm up, do whatever they need to. Because, you know, each lift of the 3 lifts, they all use different muscles. And so that's what I spent my day doing yesterday. I was spotting and loading weights onto the bar. And I'm not sure if I got a good workout from that. People say you get sore, but I'm sore today. Can't tell if it's from that or lifting the stone. But overall, it is not a hard job at all. I think it's a fun job, and I got to watch a lot of lifters, and that gave me a good opinion or a good insight into what to do and what not to do when you're out there lifting, because you want to move the most weight. Or maybe you don't. I'm not sure what your goals are. Anyways, let's get into it. Some of the little things, let's start with the squat, right? You got your setup, the athlete walks out, they put the bar in their back. I saw a lot of people wiggling with the bar on their back. And to me, that one thing that screams is a little bit of indecisiveness, right? Like you should know where the squat bar goes on your back. It's very uncomfortable. And like you, after some time, especially when you're moving these heavier weights, I almost feel like you have an indent, like your body just makes a spot for the squat bar. So I see a lot of people wiggling on the bar, but I also saw a lot of bars rolling off of people's backs. And there was sometimes when we had to catch them, or sometimes when that caused an issue for the athlete, right? You know, if you have a 300-pound bar in your back and it wiggles, that means that, you know, you're probably going to wiggle as a 150, 200-pound person, right? Like all that force, it's going to be countered. That's wasted energy that could be used on moving more weight or getting a better form, right? All these athletes are being watched by everybody, but 3 judges specifically. They have to get 2 lights to pass, right? So if you fail 2 of the cues or 2 judges don't think it was good enough, that lift doesn't count. You just wasted that energy. And so, you know, in the day when you're trying to do your best, little things to help you are essential. So you should know where the bar goes on your back. You should be confident, and you should not be wiggling around, wasting that energy. You should walk right up to the bar, get the bar on your back, and walk out. Remember, you only have a minute to prepare or to get the lift completed from the time your name is announced. Another thing that I saw athletes doing that goes with all 3 movements that I'm going to talk about is a lot of people have pauses. And, you know, I get pausing and thinking and being concise about what you're doing, but I saw these pauses more so as people being indecisive and nervous, right? Like they were giving themselves time to think, and we all know what it feels like to be under a 300-pound bar or 500-pound squat. Like it's a little anxiety ridden, I would say. Like you don't want to get stapled to the floor. You want to do your best with all these people watching. Like, wow, can you imagine like loading up 500 on a bar confidently and then like absolutely bombing it? Like, no, like you don't want to do that. But like with these athletes, they're not sure, but you have to be sure. I'm sure that they've tested these numbers before, or else they wouldn't have put them up in the competition, right? You're not going to say you can do something you can't. So when you approach that bar, approach it quickly, approach it with confidence, and be sure to get it moving. You only have a minute. Again, so the longer you take, the less time you have to complete the lift. Another thing that I saw a lot of athletes doing yesterday were, especially with the squat and the deadlift, they were wiggling their feet. They were stepping out of the bar and they were wiggling their feet. They were taking a crazy amount of steps back. Look, this gets back to point number one with wiggling around under that bar. Everything you do from the moment you grab that bar with that weight is wasted energy. You can't tell me if you find 200 pounds to be a challenging load on your back that taking extra steps is not going to take away from your squat. You have to know. And for the most part, I feel, and I've seen other athletes like Mike Rashid or other advanced squatters say, when you step out the bar, you should try your best to take one step. Grab that bar, take one step back with one foot, obviously, then the other. You should be in your squat position, go right down, come right up. Don't take 2 or 3 steps back. Don't take 2 steps back in 10 seconds and wiggle your toes and make sure your feet are solid. I promise you, if you have the right shoes, as you should, and 300 pounds on your back, the weight is going to be solid in your hands. You are not going to slip. Now, I mean, that sounded kind of harsh. Don't get me wrong. I saw people making mistakes, but I also saw a lot of great athletes. I saw people plenty stronger than me. I saw smaller lifters lift 2 or 3 times as much as my weight, like 600 pounds plus. And that is a very interesting thing. Like, those people, like, they got it figured out, you know. They got their training dialed in. They know what works for their body. They got their diet working. They have that part of their brain that the motor units are really good at recruiting those motor units to summon that strength, right? Like they practice the skill of powerlifter. So I saw mistakes, but I also saw so many great athletes. So I feel like the tone of that last one went off, but I don't want to portray the wrong idea. In that same vein, something I saw a lot of good athletes doing, like some of the highest lifters, I believe the winners of the comp, when they came out, especially for the deadlift, I swear they looked silly, like the way they had their arms in the air, like SpongeBob in that concert episode. But they had this mechanical way of moving, like, and everything was so concise and thought out. And like, man, at first I didn't understand it, but after watching them lift 2 or 3 times, it's like, oh, he's doing this. He's flaring his arms up so he can use his lats and make sure his flats are like filled with blood so he can pull a deadlift bar closer to him. Like, good athletes practice their form. They know their form, and it's robotic. They came out there and they got it done. It was like it was like watching a robot. Like, it was very precise movements. They knew what they were doing. They moved a certain way to get these muscles to activate so they could lift more weight, right? It's whatever you can do to lift more weight. Even with people's arches, I know that's like debatable, whatever. I mean, I guess in the spirit of a competition, whatever allows you to lift more is acceptable. But like, they knew what they were doing. They had this specific way of doing something they practiced 1,000 times. They would hold the bar, slam themselves into the bench. This is another good cue. Push yourself into the bench. They would bring their feet in really close to the bar and or point their toes out. That way, when they pushed off the ground, that energy or that force kind of came off their body, and that was their bounce to push out of that bench hole. You know, like, the little things, all these little things we can do. Maybe you remember 1 or 2 things, but if you can remember 1 or 2 things to help your bench, and it helps you lift 10 more, 20 more pounds, isn't that worth it? The last cue I have for you guys is just, I've noticed a lot of things. The good athletes have control of the weight. From the moment when they grabbed the weight, they were confident. It didn't wiggle around. They didn't try to yank on the bar. It was mostly, for the most part, good athletes were slow, controlled. Maybe they were explosive, right? So I guess slow is not the right word, but it was in control. The bar wasn't doing anything crazy in their hands. I made this video just to let you guys know that even if you go to a powerlifting meet to watch, or if you're just in the gym, there's a lot of things you can learn to do and not to do from watching other athletes. So I hope this video helped you guys out. I'm going to close this out by just saying, if you can, go out there. This is going to be completely off topic, not even about powerlifting, but strongman related, still lifting. Go lift some Atlas stones. Go try lifting something that isn't perfectly balanced, that isn't static exercise. It can help you use muscles that you don't normally use. It can challenge you in ways and help you fortify that resistance to your body and build those muscles. I'm sure you've seen during this video, my back is rounded. That is okay. I said this in another video, it is just building strength in those uncomfortable positions. It's building resistance to help me. So, hey, if my body does happen to get in one of those positions, it'll be okay. It has the muscles to do that. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video.